with the Flash movie officially being titled Flashpoint, will that mean that we're getting a reboot of sorts for the DC Extended Universe? I think probably maybe. Let's talk about it. What is up, YouTube? It's Josh. This is the Den of Nerds. Guys, I have been thinking a lot about all of the different things that came out of San Diego Comic-Con this year. I mean, to me, this is the pithiest I remember a San Diego Comic-Con being in a long time. There was just so much announced and so many implications of so many different really cool things that I've been pretty much mulling all of these things over a lot. In fact, yesterday I sat down and wrote an article on thedenofnerds.com about how the Flashpoint movie could be the exact reason that they've had production problems with the Flash movie, and the fact that it is covering the Flashpoint Paradox. It could be a reboot to the DC Extended Universe. Go to thedenofnerds.com and check that article out. It's getting some buzz right now. People like it. But this video is me kind of laying out some thoughts from the article, but also some stuff that wasn't in the article that I've been thinking about after I wrote it. So basically, guys, I probably don't have to tell many of you comic book fans this, but just for the sake of, filling out this video, I'm going to talk about what the Flashpoint Paradox is, then I'm going to talk about what the reboot could look like, and finally, I'll finish off with why I think this all makes a lot more sense when you consider what Geoff Johns is trying to do to the DC Extended Universe and what the future of the DC Extended Universe will look like. So, the Flashpoint Paradox was a comic book series actually written by Geoff Johns. It preceded the New 52 reboot. Now, this all had to do with Barry Allen going back in time and preventing Zoom from killing his mother. This basically gave us a completely different alternate reality in which Barry was no longer the Flash, there was no Superman, Bruce Wayne was dead, his dad was Batman, and there was this huge looming global conflict between Atlantis and Themyscira. This conflict was almost like a Cold War type thing that was starting to go hot. It could destroy the entire world. And to be honest with you, sorry, spoilers, it does. It destroys the whole world. It's exactly that. It is a nuclear extinction, a Watchmen-esque level extinction event that happens. And within this story, Barry has to basically get his powers back and go back in time and allow his mother to die. So crazy. But after that event was all over, what the DC universe looked like afterwards was like a post-crisis, infinite crisis thing. And just as a small sidebar, DC has done this for a long, long time. They do these universe, multiverse level events that shake things up and kind of reset status quo. They've been doing it for a long, long time. There's the Crisis or the Crises. There's Infinite Crisis, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Final Crisis. They do this a lot, guys. It's cyclical. It's something really integral to the DNA of DC Comics. And I've often wondered why they don't utilize it more in their television and DC movie universe. Now, the TV shows have kind of been doing a better job of this. They are really playing around with the multiverse idea. They've got the Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, Earth 37, or wherever Supergirl's from. So Greg Berlanti is not afraid to go there, and I think that it adds a certain comic booky charm to those shows. But not only has this kind of a reboot been done on the television shows in the DCCW universe, but there was an animated version of the comic book story that released several years ago, and it's a fantastic movie. It really is. It showcases a lot of the events from the comics. It changes certain things from the comic book series, but overall tells the same kind of story, and it's very, very cool. So what I'm saying is the public has been introduced to this idea a lot. Geoff Johns is actually really hyper aware of how the big things in DC, and when I say big, I mean reach, as far as what things have reached the most people as far as an audience. He is hyper aware of certain things that audiences can accept perhaps a little bit more easily than things that maybe haven't been shown on mass media. Look to the 80-page comic book he wrote called Rebirth. Rebirth uses story elements that had been used on the Flash television show, and although they're different in the comic book, they are at least familiar enough to take new readers along for the ride without losing them completely. I think he's really smart in that regard. He understands when certain things work at a mass level and how repeating them or utilizing those similar story elements can help tell complex stories to people who aren't super familiar with the source material because they're familiar with the story elements. I think that's really, really cool. So, Flashpoint Paradox, or the Flash movie as Flashpoint, could be used as sort of a reboot. And the big question I got from a lot of people, because this article's been kind of popping off and I've been talking to people about it, is they're like, well, don't you think it's a little too soon for a reboot? And I say the same thing to everyone, and I'm going to try to clarify my point here. It doesn't have to be a complete reboot. Cinematic versions of comic book adaptations always have to be cinema friendly, and they have to be conducive to the goals of whatever the cinematic universe is trying to accomplish. So what I mean is, you can obviously keep things that are working and let things that are not working fall to the wayside. Like Wonder Woman is the best example. DC and Warner Brothers would be absolutely insane to change anything about Wonder Woman. The Wonder Woman character is their biggest star, and I think that what Joss is going to do to Justice League is put the focus on her, and she's going to get the focus and the leadership role in the Justice League that she's never really had before, and that's good. So they would be crazy to change that, so I don't see them changing that. But the Batman, if Affleck doesn't want to play ball, Superman, if Henry Cavill wants to go away and they want to get back to the Boy Scout. All of these different things that if they wanted to change, like Jared Leto's Joker, and I know there are certain people out there that love Jared Leto's Joker. I am not one of them. There are a lot of different things in the DC Extended Universe that, to me, totally suck, and they need to be adjusted. So what the Flashpoint Paradox could be is a way for them to keep certain things intact, keep the continuity intact, and also change things in a graceful way. Remember when they said they were trying to figure out a way to replace Ben Affleck in a graceful way? Well, this could totally be that way. You could have a thing where after we reboot, you see the Justice League being established again. Like, again. You know what I mean? Like, look, and I don't know, that might be a little too weird for audiences, but like I said, guys, they've done this on the CW universe. For God's sakes, they changed the sex of Diggle's baby. Diggle's baby was a girl, and then they went back in time, and the Flashpoint Paradox happened, and now it's a boy, or it might be the reverse, I actually don't remember. But they've changed massive things in the DC CW universe because of Barry going back in time and changing saving his mother. So audiences, I think, would be a little more accepting than you might imagine. Now, look, my last point here is the problems with the Flash production. We know that the Flash movie has been in production hell. They've lost 3 directors, I think, and Rick Famuyiwa, the most recent director, after coming off of Dope, I was super hyped on this guy possibly making this Flash movie. He's an amazing director. Dope's a great movie, and he posted some stuff on his Instagram, like reading all these Flash trade paperbacks, and I'm sure he had a really charming breath of fresh air story. But Jeff Johns has control, at least partially control, of what happens in the DC Extended Universe from now on. So, I believe that he always wanted to use the Flash movie as a way to reboot. This is why Rick had to leave. Because although he had a great movie, when they came at him and said, we need to do this Flashpoint Paradox to sort of reset certain things in our universe, he was probably like, what? No, that's not the movie I want to make. And then there was arguments, and then it disappeared. This is probably also why the movie had a script rewrite, a page 1 rewrite, which is kind of unheard of for movies that are supposedly in production, right? This all makes a lot more sense and actually makes me feel a little bit better about some of these production problems. I also believe that the step back that DC was taking, remember Warner Brothers was like, well, we're going to take a step back until after Justice League because we want to see A, how that movie is received, and B, what works and what doesn't, and what contracts we can continue to sign with these actors before we make permanent decisions on the future of our shared universe. I think Jeff Johns always had this idea in mind. I mean, he's doing the same thing with comics. He's like, okay, with Rebirth, we're going to fix everything that the New 52 screwed up, and we're going to go back to the legacy and bring these things back that people like. We're reintroducing hope. We're doubling down on that. And it worked. Rebirth, amazing. Best DC Comics has been in decades. I'm loving it. So, if he can come do that to the cinematic universe, that would be amazing. And I say they go fucking nuts with it. Go nuts with this shit. Super multiverse. Give me like 3 or 4 different Superman, different Batman, all these different things. Go crazy with it and then reset to some stuff that we're familiar with and some new stuff and give us the legacy back. Give us the fabric of these characters back. And I think if they do that, they will be in a beautiful place and they will have done it completely different than Marvel in a very DC way. So that is what I hope happens. And I hope that Jeff Johns is able to convince the people at Warner Brothers that this is the decision they need to make. I mean, they're calling it Flashpoint. That was official. So I think that he's been battling for this. How much of it is actually going to be a reboot, we will find out soon, hopefully. But I think that is more or less the direction we want to go with it. But let me know in the comment section, guys, what do you think about this? Do you think this would be a good idea? Do you think it would be a bad idea? Do you think it's too soon? Do you think it's too late? There's a lot of different opinions about DC and the cinematic universe out there right now. I'm looking forward to hearing your guys' thoughts. Please, let's have a discussion about this. And subscribe to this channel. If you're watching this stuff, if you like what's going on, it would really help us out if you subscribe to the channel. And you'll get access to all our videos and you'll know when they drop, which will be dope. So, as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and nerdy day. See ya!